Hello everyone, I'm Heather. I'm back for a really quick video. I'm on my lunch break, so I thought I'd have a chat, eat a bit of lunch, talk about the books that I've wrapped up recently, and the ones that are sort of on the docket for the minute that I'm in the middle of and that are sort of coming up. I have my lunch, which is like little veggies in a pot. Can I tell you the devastating life choices I made this weekend? It was like a long weekend, so we had the Monday off as well. And I drank all of my Weight Watchers points. Like, I don't know if you know how Weight Watchers works, but like you get a certain number of points a day, and then you get also splurge points, like that go up every week, you know? I literally drank all of my splurge points and several days worth of points just in vodka. I knew going into it, I was like, if I stay out, I'm gonna end up eating carrot sticks for lunch for the rest of the week. And I still made that choice. Like, I still pulled that trigger. I have no one to blame but myself. Okay, so the first book I finished recently that I never updated anyone on is the one that was the last month, the month before, for the 90s book club. Bert at Pastory Time, he does the My So-Called Book Club and picks a 90s book every sort of 2 months. And the one that was last time was The Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Soldier. And I wanted to read this one for ages because it's on the Great American Reads, like one of America's 100 favorite books ever. And the sort of book is about this girl in the 90s. She lives in Brooklyn, and her dad is like a kingpin drug dealer. He's not just like a meddling drug dealer. He's the top guy and has been the top guy for all of her life. She's like 16 years old or something. So his whole life and before that, he's been like the kingpin guy, like throwing millions around, you know what I mean? Like gold bracelets and like in charge of literally everything. So she grew up like most of her life in these sort of projects in Brooklyn as the daughter of a man who will literally kill you if you look at her wrong, you know, like she's the queen. And her mother is also like basically the queen, you know, she always looks right, you know, and like the daughter then gets this idea in her mind. She's like, oh, I gotta look good, everything's gotta, you know, like match, and like I gotta have expensive stuff, and I gotta, you know, like have attitude, sort of like teaching her how to be like a queen, you know, and how to sort of be the wife of the king drugpin. But then everything sort of goes a bit wrong. The king drugpin falls spectacularly, and she's got to sort of like figure out how to live her life like in the real world, not like lifted up on this pedestal of like being the drug kingpin's daughter. And I really liked it. I loved the crap out of that book. It was so good. I had to slow down on it a bit because it was giving me some anxiety. Like, I was having some anxiety issues in my life already, and then like her fall from grace gave me mad anxiety. But I love the characters, not because they're likable people. They're terrible people, all of them. But they're so well like crafted as characters. And she's like, she's got this other guy, this guy who used to work for her dad, who she's in love with, but who is like trying to better himself, you know. He doesn't want to be in the drugs game anymore. He's always sort of on top of it a bit, like never letting it muddle him down. And then you sort of find out his story later on, and it's like a really good backstory. And then like the ending is fantastic as well, like obviously grim. I won't tell you, don't worry. But I just thought all the characters, all like the action sort of builds up, goes through. The main character is a badass, but also like a whiny brat as well, who has no idea what's going on in the world, has no idea how to live her life, even though she's full of all this like super intense confidence, and like she's bright as shit, you know, as well. Like she's so quick, she learns so quickly and sort of sees things really insightful, sees things around her really clearly, but still just falls prey to like being like spoiled and not having any street smarts really, despite the fact that she grew up on this like projects in Brooklyn. Anyway, I really love that. But the next one that's coming up for like next month and the month after is Tipping the Velvet by Sarah Waters. I think Sarah Waters is Welsh or like from Wales or something, so I'm here for that. And this one, so this one's like on my docket coming up, like I want to read this one this month, is about, I think like late 19th century, like 1890s or something. This girl falls in love with a male impersonator and then follows them to London or something in, you know, this sort of like rough Victorian time and like does a bunch of odd jobs in order to live in London. And I was like looking at the description of what made Sarah Waters write this book is that she was like doing a PhD in English literature or something, and she wanted to write a book that she'd actually like to read, like based on all these like principles and these themes and like sort of literary things. Like, let me find out. Right. The picaresque plot elements have prompted scholars and reviewers to compare it to similar British urban adventure stories written by Charles Dickens and Daniel Defoe. The novel has pervasive lesbian themes, concentrating on eroticism and self-discovery. Waters was working on a PhD dissertation in English literature when she decided to write a story she would like to read. Employing her love for the variety of people and districts in London, she consciously chose an urban setting, blah, blah. This looks really good. Like, it's not the one I voted for. Because when they, like, put up the thing, there was one that looked like, a sort of, I don't know, noir, dark sort of mystery sort of thing. But I'm happy about this one. I'm not sad. I ain't sad. This one looks really good. Okay, so the next two I read for Half-a-Ween-a-thon that was last week. And I did a vlog that covered the first 3 books that I did. So I managed to finish those sort of in the weekend, basically, or like Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And then the rest of the week I had just the 2 left, and I haven't sort of updated about those. So one of them was In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami, something like that. Murakami, anyway. And this one was amazing. So weird, right? Okay, if you're not into weird Japanese novels, probably give it a miss. But if you like that every once in a while, holy crap, this was so good. I think this may be my favorite book of the year so far. Like, I sort of went into it because the prompt was a book with blood on the cover. Don't normally read like horror or whatever, and it was hard to find a book with blood on the cover, but I finally found one. I was like, oh, you know, it's a bit of a cult classic. I think it'll be okay. Like, I didn't really know anything about it except that it had blood on the cover, and I expected it to be like this sort of slasher type one, or like maybe like a weird sort of horror thriller or whatever. Like, I didn't know a whole about it. I just knew that it takes place in Tokyo, and this American tourist comes to Tokyo to be guided around by this local Japanese guy from Tokyo. And the Japanese tour guide starts to suspect that the American tourist is like, you know, a bit shady. Like, he could potentially be a killer. He doesn't know. And that's literally all I knew about the book. So I sort of went in with that expectation, and then it ended up flipping itself fully on its head and not being anything about that. Like, yeah, okay, it has like gory murder scenes and like slasher stuff and like sex shops and all this sort of seedy underbelly stuff. But it's not about that. It's about so much more. It's actually like a deep philosophical conversation about like Japanese society, like the differences between sort of pre-World War II Japanese society and modern Japanese society, and like the differences between like Western, sort of American and sort of Western European societies versus Japanese society, or like, you know, Asian societies. Also sort of like about like urban loneliness, or sort of loneliness in general, and sort of about the things that people do in like their cold, dead lives to feel again. Do you know what I mean? Like, they're drudging on and every day, one step after the other, and sort of what they do in those like drudging sort of days to have sparks of feeling in life, and sort of like grasping out for things to feel in this like cold world. Holy shit, it was so good. And I think mainly because I had no idea that this was coming. I just thought it would be like this like mindless thriller, but it was so deep and it hit me so hard. Like, I've got like one of the quotes was, "All Americans have something lonely about them. I don't know what the reason for that might be, except maybe that they're all descended from immigrants." And that hit me really hard. Like, is that why our society is the way it is? Like, why is our society so individualist? You know, and yeah, like Western sort of cultures tend to be ish like that. But I would say, like, I would argue that American society is even more like that than, say, like British society or something like that. Like, it's sort of like an extreme individualism. And it's like, why is it like that? is it because we're all descended from people who threw themselves from their families to like obtain greater adventure, or to like, you know, travel beyond their family and their home life and their community to sort of like make it somewhere else, whether they wanted to or not? Is that like, I don't know, is it like based in that sort of thing? Anyway, it's had me thinking about that for ages. Anyway, and the ending, like, it wasn't like a bang ending. It wasn't like a shocker sort of ending. It was just sort of like a drift to a close sort of ending. But it left you just thinking, Jesus Christ, what has happened? Like, what has just happened? Like, why is it like that? Why did he do this? Like, my mind was just spinning. Anyway, I love the absolute crap out of that one. Like, cheers to that one. I'm not sure if I'm going to read any more of his, because as I was sort of like going through the internet, like dredging for people who thought, you know, had thoughts about this book, quite a lot of them were like, oh, I love that author because I've read loads of these other ones, but this one was like unexpected. I didn't expect this one. It was like quite philosophical or whatever. So I think that means that his other ones are like this sort of mindless slasher that I was on about. I'll sort of look into it a bit more. If his other books are like more like this one, you know, I think I might be in. I might give that a go. I do like weird Japanese novels. And the last one I did for a Half-a-Weanathon was like short story book. It was like one of these like little Faber things, you know, like these tiny Faber books. And it was Ghostly Tales by Celia Fremlin or something. And I think I'm going to look into more of Celia Fremlin's stuff as well. Like, she must have more out there. So I really liked that. There was only 2 stories in there. And they weren't necessarily like horrifying. They weren't super scary, but they were like quite clever, you know, and like a bit creepy. I just really liked those. Like one of the stories was a girl is left at home. She's like a teenage girl. Her mother leaves her at home while she goes on like a road trip or a business trip or something. And the girl's at home alone. And the phone rings and she's like, ugh, it's just my mom checking up on me. She starts checking up on me. She starts to get angry. She's like, I'm not even going to answer it. And then it sort of goes and goes and goes and goes and goes for ages. And then she starts to get like, feel a bit worried about it. And it sort of unsettles her for the rest of the night. Like her brilliant night of her being alone and like independent or whatever is just ruined by this like phone that keeps ringing and she refuses to answer it. And then a person comes to the door, like a person her age who used to live at her house, and she sort of like hangs out with that girl for a while. Anyway, I like won't waste it, like I won't ruin it for you. But the ending was really clever and really good. I really liked it. Okay, so the one I just finished today is an audiobook. And I was buddy reading this with Amanda at the Reading and Writing Life, like I'll link her below. So I basically forced her to read this book with me. She was like, oh, what should we read? And I was like, there's this one. And now I feel quite sad because I feel like it is not the best, maybe. So the story itself is fascinating, okay? So the story behind it is this girl in the 20s. She was 3 years old. She went missing for 5 whole days. No one knew who she was. There were police reports filed. People like, you know, calling her name, combing the countryside, looking for this girl. She finally shows up 5 days later and there's no other mention of it anywhere. No, like, oh, who took her then? Why was she gone? Where did she go? What happened to the people who took her? Were they punished? Like, what's going on? There's literally nothing. So she goes searching for the answers to this, you know? She's trying to find out all the stuff. And then from there, all this other, like, family drama just unspills. She had no idea that, you know, like, it looked like it was this sort of family life, but actually it's this sort of family life, and that sort of thing. So based on that, the story itself was fascinating. I think the problem was that it was just told in a weird pacing. So she's trying to, like, I think basically what it is she's trying to give us this feeling that the answers are in the littlest details. You know, like you can't go looking like a police drama, you know, like, oh, I need documents to support this and this and this, because there aren't any. You know, like actual cold hard facts is like, it was devoid of any. There isn't any. So you have to sort of like dip into the little details, you know, find little photographs and like look closer at the photograph and there's someone in the back and blah, blah, blah. Something's written on the other side of the photograph that doesn't match with blah, blah, blah. Like, she's trying to get us into this spirit, you know, of like looking at the littlest things, and also trying to put ourselves in the minds of the people at the time, you know, like she's recreating for us that area at that time, you know, like 1920s Lincolnshire, and she's sort of given us you know, the feeling of the village and the villagers, and like how it's an ancient town and its Viking origins and everything like that. And you're supposed to sort of feel, I think, a sort of slow, like a series of slow epiphanies instead of just like a cop drama where it's just like, you know, fact, 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 action, fact, fact. But I think for me, I wanted to know what had happened to her. Like, I was really interested in the actual, you know, final destination. So like her sort of meandering, slow, sort of getting there, and then like we're gonna go there, and then she's like, oh, let's talk about this painting that I can't really understand why it's actually linked to that. But then, like, as if I was begging her for ages to get to it, she finally does get to it, but all at once in like a series of 2 chapters, just like smacks me in the face with all this like information, these different people who I now can't keep track of and have to take notes. Like, anyway, the ending was good in that it's really interesting what has happened and what's happened to the family and everything like that. But I think the meandering slowness and like the pace and everything sort of messed it up. I wonder if it would be better if it was like a documentary, you know, like a documentary film. Like, also all the sort of like details of the area of Lincolnshire and everything. I think that I'd be really into it if I was actually from Lincolnshire, or if I lived there or close by. Whereas not really having any like connection personally to it, it was just a lot. It was a lot of description of the area. But anyway, I haven't had a final chat yet with Amanda, so we'll see what she thinks. But I think she agrees. Yeah, the pacing was off. And last one on my list of ones that I finished is Kingdom Tide by Ry Curtis. So this one I heard about through the Dullan Thomas Prize. Like, Swansea University gives this literary prize list every year. And so the idea basically is that it's this old woman, and she crashes her airplane with her husband and the pilot, and both the husband and the pilot die immediately. And they're in the wilderness, I think in Montana or something. And there's also sort of like, so there's like 2 stories unfolding. Her having crashed and now wandering the wilderness trying to survive. And this park ranger who's a bit of like a noir private eye type person. Like, she's had a really bad, ugly divorce, and now she's sort of drinking herself to death, you know? But she's determined that this old woman is alive on the mountain somewhere, or alive in the wilderness, and they have to go get her. And everyone's like, she was like 70 years old and she's crashed her airplane, and both of the other people on the plane died immediately. Like, she's probably dead somewhere, but because the wilderness is just vast, we're not gonna be able to find her, and that's just gonna be it. But she's like, no, like, I swear I heard her, like, we heard her say her name on the radio, blah blah, like, she's determined. And so you have these 2 sort of characters sort of going about, like, so the old lady's wandering in the wilderness and sort of talking as well about her past life and her relationships and her thoughts about the wilderness. And she meets this sort of like shady masked wilderness man. He's like living in the wilderness because he's sort of like, I don't know, wanted from the law or something weird. And then you've got the park ranger, and you like get her thoughts and her sort of backstory unfolding as well as she's going along, and sort of like struggling against everyone to go and like actually find this woman on the mountain. And I think I liked it. I think it was pretty good. I'm not sure about some of it. I don't know, it didn't like grip me, but I liked the themes and I liked the characters. I think roughly the main sort of bit that goes through it is like how we love, you know? It's sort of like how each of us find love in this world, you know, and if we find it in sort of less conventional ways, you know, is it so bad? Like, I think it's sort of like, I have to think about it a little bit longer. But I liked these sort of themes and like things that the old lady says. She sort of says them obviously from a place of like, she's lived her life now, and, you know, she could die soon, and she's got like no reason to hold back, you know? She's just spilling the tea all over the place about everyone she knows, and like her own thoughts and everything as well. And sort of like, I guess from that part in your life, you've just got the ultimate clarity. Like, you're not putting up pretenses with yourself or other people anymore, you know? You just see it for how it is finally. I think, I don't know, it didn't grip me. I wasn't like pushing through it, you know, like, oh, I need to get to the end. It was more sort of just like a bit of a meandering, I reckon, like a dawdling. I don't know. Anyway. Right, ones I'm currently in the middle of, Magic for Liars by Sarah Gailey. I'm liking this one pretty much. It's got, it opens up with a murder at a magic school. So a bit like Harry Potter, I guess. And then immediately after that, we're introduced to the main character, who is like a PI. And she's like one of these sort of like dark noir PI types that I like. Her life has obviously fallen apart in several ways, but now she's a PI. And she's visited by the headmistress or the headmaster of this magical school, who wants her to investigate this murder. And then we find out that the PI is the sister of one of the people sort of at the magical school. Like, she has magic, but this other girl doesn't. Like a sort of muggle sibling, if you will. And that's where I am at the minute, so I don't know what's going to happen next, but I'm actually really liking it. I just haven't had a chance to sort of get through it, because I was doing half a weenathon, I was doing this buddy read and blah, blah, blah. I haven't had a chance to get to it, but I'm sad because it's going to be good. Maybe I'll bang it out really hardcore this week and let you know. But the other one, sort of on a similar theme, I'm doing an audiobook now, which is The Rules of Magic by Alice Hoffman. So, I've had a lot of people on about Alice Hoffman at me recently. And I remember, like, she is sort of always on my list as, like, people I should go to get more of. But this one, I think, The Rules of Magic, a couple people haven't really rated it. Like, they were like, Practical Magic was amazing, but this one's not as good. But I had it cheap from, like, the bargain section of the store. And I'm sort of into it. I'm sort of into this at the minute, you know? Like, in my mind, like, the mood I'm in. I want a bit of, like, you know, like, easy sort of magic reads or whatever. So I'm going to give it a go. I will let you know if it's terrible, but I feel like I have high hopes for it. It's like a prequel to Practical Magic, and it's about, like, the aunties in the 60s. So, you know, I'm in. For the immediate future, next one's sort of coming up. So Tipping the Velvet, like I said. But also I have another book club that I do, like, with people I used to work with. So it's like the office book club. And we're gonna do Thursday Murder Club by something Osman. I think it's that guy who's on that game show, like the Pointless game show. But I don't know, it might just be a similar name. Anyway, I know nothing about this book. Literally nothing. I imagine it's to do with a murder. That's literally all I've got. Should I Google it? Hold on. This actually looks delightful. So, 4 septuagenarians with a few tricks up their sleeves, a female cop with her first big case, a brutal murder. Welcome to the Thursday Murder Club. Oh, this is cool. And I found it super cheap at my local grocery store, so we're not messing around. We're going for it. I'm pretty excited about that one, to be honest, now. I will let you know. Okay, that's it. That's all of them. If you have any thoughts at all about any of the ones I said, if you've read them, or you want to read them, or you hate them, you need to tell me. That's very cool. Let me know. Leave it in the comments. I love a good comment. If you have literally anything else to tell me as well, like maybe books that you think I might like based on these books, like any weird Japanese murder novels you have on your list of ones that were amazing, hit me up. Other than that, I hope this was a quick video. I don't know how long it was. I will check now, but thank you for watching. Goodbye. Goodbye.